Hello again. I've discussed immigration before, and so I was not all that surprised yesterday when somebody using the pseudonym Sheeple Bootlicker accused me in a comment of blaming refugees our country created for destroying your country. This is an interesting idea. Some people might be horrified and dismayed to be accused of blaming refugees, but I'm happy to say that I'm not one of them. As I said before, I've lived in other people's countries and drifted around a bit, so I'm unlikely to blame somebody from another country for doing such a thing. I was always aware that I was only in other countries on sufferance, though, and was always liable to be chucked out if my visa expired or something. It is the idea that one only needs to tear up one's passport and turn up without papers, and that this will give you the right to come and live in Britain forever, that I find strange. I don't blame the illegal immigrants for flocking here. I understand their motivation well enough. I blame a useless government which doesn't have the balls to do something about it. Let's just consider the matter of illegal immigration to Britain for a moment and see if we can look at one or two of the implications. And there are things that people will seldom speak about out loud. I really don't know why. On Friday and Saturday, 40 boats crossed the English Channel, bringing over 1,100 people to England. In total, over 17,000 illegal immigrants have landed on our shores this year by crossing the Channel in this way. Most of these people were single men, although there were of course some children and mothers and babies. They will all have to live somewhere, obviously. There has been a fuss lately because the army barracks in which some of them were placed were not fit to live in. Good enough for our soldiers, but not up to muster for illegal immigrants, it seems. Assuming that some of these people have families who can share a home, that means that the rest must each have a house or flat of their own. That is about 15,000 homes that will need to be built to house those who have arrived so far this year by crossing the Channel in this way. There are several points to think about here. The first is that those 15,000 homes will have to be built and paid for out of the public purse. These people arrived in the country with only the clothes on their back, so they will have to be housed in council houses or housing association properties. When I say that the money to build these new homes will come from the public purse, I really mean it will come out of our pockets. Local authorities and central government will use our taxes to build these homes. This is surely a matter in which I might reasonably express an interest without blaming anybody. I pay a lot of income tax, and I don't see why I should help fork out hundreds of millions of pounds for 15,000 new houses and flats to house illegal immigrants. Another point is that those of us with children and grandchildren sometimes think it would be nice if they could be given cheap housing. And of course, one final point as regards housing is that many of us are very concerned about the huge amount of green land which is being built over recently. Simply to house the illegal immigrants who have crossed the Channel this year will need another 15,000 homes. Where do you think they'll be built? Well, on open spaces near you, probably. Let's look at another aspect of the thing. The average GP has a list of 2,000 patients for whom he or she is responsible. We will need to pay to train 9 GPs just to cater for the needs of the immigrants who have crossed the Channel this year. Even taking into account the fees that students pay, it costs this country about £220,000 to train a doctor. That's £2 million we'll have to spend just to provide GPs for this one group of people. Have you any idea the effect that all this is having upon health services? In the description to this video, I give a link to an article from 2019 which draws attention to the fact that the number of people registered with doctors in this country is rising fast. Let me quote, "The average number of registered patients per GP in England has risen to 2,087, an extra 56 people compared with last year, according to new official figures. Registered patients in England have increased by over 723,000 between July 2018 and July 2019, data from NHS Digital shows." Here is a serious question for viewers, and this is genuinely a question, and I wonder if people can decide for themselves what they think the answer is. There are two possible explanations for that increase of almost 750,000 patients registered with the NHS between July 2018 and July 2019. One would be that hundreds of thousands of people born and raised in Britain had never registered with a doctor and didn't realise that they were entitled to free medical care. In the course of a year, about 750,000 people suddenly heard about the National Health Service and couldn't understand why they'd never bothered to register for it before. So they signed up with GPs. Just fancy they didn't know such a thing existed. The other possible explanation is that 723,000 foreigners arrived in the country and decided that they would take advantage of the free health service. Which of these two possibilities sounds most likely? Think about this the next time you're put on a waiting list or can't get an appointment to see your GP. It's not just COVID causing the problems. As I say, I do not blame refugees for trying their luck in this way. I blame a government whose job it is to guard and protect Britain's borders from intruders and simply can't get a grip on a crisis which is getting worse by the week. I especially blame them for the fact that they're sending me the bill for the mess and expecting me to pay for the things which I mentioned earlier.